Part 27. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 261. Chapter 261 Chapter 261 Mo Mingguo. Mo Jiangxiang's heart shrank sharply, and he suppressed the fear in his heart. Didn't you say you wanted to take me to a place? You will like this place. Su Yuan's narrowed his eyes slightly, with a smile on his handsome face, but the smile did not reach his eyes. Mo Jiangxiang followed Su Yuan's to a seaside villa. As soon as she stepped into the villa, she didn't feel anything unusual. The further inside, the smell of blood spread to her nose along the air. Momo, don't be too surprised by the surprise I have prepared for you. Su Yuan squeezed her palm. Mo Jiangxiang frowned and looked at him doubtfully. Su Yuan snapped his fingers with a cheerful expression, and the door in front of Mo Jiangxiang opened. What suddenly came into view was a man tied to a chair half dead, his head lowered, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. His black clothes were wet. The water droplets falling on the ground are dark red. Mo Jiangxiang suppressed the overwhelming feeling in his stomach, looked at him with fear hidden in his eyes, and asked, "Who is he?" Su Yuan's handsome brows were furrowed, and the smile disappeared from his face. He seemed to be dissatisfied with her appearance. "You don't like it?" Mo Jiangxiang. The answer was not what she heard and what she wanted. "I thought you would be very happy," Su Yuan said with disappointment. Mo Jiangxiang was speechless for this man and asked him again, "Who is he?" Mo Mingguo. Mo Jiangxiang's pupils dilated. He couldn't believe what he heard. He actually captured Mo Mingguo and injured him like that. Did he dislike himself for living too long? Who is Mo Mingguo? He is the mayor of Rongcheng. To arrest him is to go against the public. Mo Jiangxiang was so angry that his head hurt. "How long have you been arresting him?" Su Yuan stared at her with confusion. He didn't understand why she was so angry. He helped her catch one of her enemies. He was not happy. "It won't take more than 2 hours. 2 hours? Mo Jiangxiang's brain was pounding. "I'm afraid he will be discovered here in a while. Although he can't be caught, he will definitely record a number with the government." "Send the person back," Mo Jiangxiang said. Su Yuan's frowned and stared at her. "Are you unhappy?" "Yeah," Mo Jiangxiang replied. "Then I'll kill him." Su Yuan stared at Mo Mingguo with a gloomy expression. "Mo Jiangxiang. Let him go and deal with the follow-up matters well. Don't leave any clues to the government," Mo Jiangxiang said weakly. Su Yuan's narrowed his eyes and didn't want to let Mo Mingguo go. He talked about a lot of things from that year. "You don't want to know?" Mo Jiangxiang glanced at Mo Mingguo, who was unconscious, and suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. "I know what happened back then. When I find the evidence, I can deal with them." "Can't I help you?" Su Yuan stared at Mo Jiangxiang with his dark eyes. Mo Jiangxiang calmed down and had the courage to look him in the eye. "I will find a way to deal with my own affairs. You don't need to help me. I want to make the events of that year public to the world on my own." "Momo, isn't it good to rely on me?" Su Yuan's didn't like her doing this. It would make him feel that he was a useless man and couldn't even help a woman with evidence. Mo Jiangxiang shook his head. "Don't help me, let me learn to grow, okay?" Su Yuan's left the villa with a sullen face. He was obviously angry, or very angry. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 262. Chapter 262 Chapter 262 Then I want your life, will you give it to me? Su Yuan's left, and Mo Jiangxiang stepped closer to the unconscious Mo Mingguo. Suppressing the resentment deep in his heart, he picked up the cold water on the table and poured it on Mo Mingguo's face. The fainted person opened his eyes in a daze. At first, his eyes were not focused, but the survival instinct was still there. Let me go, and I will satisfy you with everything you want. Mo Jiangxiang's eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't control his hatred for the person in front of him. He kicked Mo Mingguo to express his hatred. He gritted his back teeth and suppressed his voice. Do you really satisfy me with everything? Mo Mingguo raised his beaten purple eyes and looked at Mo Jiangxiang with his eyes closed, unable to see clearly. He was full of desire for life and said, yes, everything will satisfy you. Mo Jiangxiang sneered, his voice cold, then I want your life, will you give it to me? Mo Mingguo's fat body was trembling, his fear of death was undisguised, and he begged for mercy. As long as you don't want my life, you can say anything. Mo Jiangxiang lowered his eyes and stared at him coldly. How could such a person become the mayor? He was so cowardly. But, what should I do? I just want your life. Mo Jiangxiang's voice was very soft, as if he had never said it before, but the cruelty in it was enough to make people's heads tingle. At this moment, Mo Mingguo just wants to avenge his own life. No dignity is important. He is almost the kind of person who begs his father to sue his mother. He prays, no, don't kill me. I have no grievances with you. Don't kill me. As long as you let me go, I will guarantee your prosperity and wealth in Chengdu. Not only you, but also your descendants, I can guarantee their prosperity and wealth. Prosperity and wealth. Mo Jiangxiang chuckled. The sadness in his laughter could not be concealed. Mo Mingguo, do you want to open your eyes and see who I am? Mo Mingguo opened his swollen eyes with difficulty, and stared at Mo Jiangxiang with squinted eyes for a long time. In the end, there was only fear in his eyes. You are. Who am I, second uncle, do you remember? Mo Jiangxiang put his face in front of Mo Mingguo, smiling like flowers. Mo Mingguo tilted his head back in fear, but he was and couldn't move back. All the blood drained from his face. Momo, you are, Momo. Second uncle, you still remember me? I thought you didn't remember me. After all, you have lived a pleasant life and sat in the position of mayor smoothly all the way. Mo Jiangxiang stared motionlessly, looking at him. At this time, Mo Mingguo didn't even know what it felt like to be afraid. He only felt fear. The fear of not being able to live filled his body and stimulated the nerves in his brain. Momo, second uncle, all these years, have been looking for you, and your sister. Second uncle, you want to find us and eradicate the roots. Mo Jiangxiang looked at him mockingly. Momo, after your parents' accident, your uncle and I have been looking for you two sisters, but we have never found them. We are your relatives. Mo Mingguo spoke more eloquently this time, probably because of his strong desire to survive. Second uncle, but I didn't even see a missing person notice back then. This is what you mean by saying you were always looking for me and my sister. Mo Jiangxiang talked to him calmly. Mo Mingguo hurriedly explained, Momo, although your uncle and I have not published missing persons notices, we have been sending people to look for you privately. Where have you been these past years? Where is your sister? How are you doing? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. We are relatives. Second uncle, do you think I am living a good life or not? Mo Jiangxiang stood up straight and stared at him from a high position. Mo Mingguo looked up at her with difficulty. Momo, your uncle and I are relieved to see that you are doing well. We haven't found you and your sister in these years. Your uncle and I can't help but feel sad every time we think of you two. Fall asleep. Ah. Mo Jiangxiang laughed softly. Second uncle, you care about me so much, but I want to kill you. Do you think I am a cruel person? Mo Mingguo hurriedly fought for himself a chance to survive. Momo, how could you kill the second uncle? We are relatives. The second uncle remembers that the person who kidnapped the second uncle was a man, and he has nothing to do with you, Momo. But, second uncle, if I tell you, I found someone to kidnap you and want to kill you. Do you know why? Mo Zhongxiang looked at him with a half smile but not a smile. The smile on Mo Mingguo's face was stiff. Momo, second uncle, do you and, second uncle, have any misunderstanding? Ha ha ha. Mo Zhongxiang smiled brightly, and his brown pupils were full of sinisterness. There is no misunderstanding between us. I just came to see you, second uncle, for a life. Momo, did you misunderstand something, how to give back a life? Mo Mingguo stammered, his nerves tense. Second uncle, do you really think I don't know anything? Mo Zhongxiang said lightly. Mo Mingguo's expression was stiff. Mo. Second uncle, I really don't understand, what are you talking about? Second uncle, why bother saying things that you and I both know well? Because even if you say what you are saying now, you can't change it. I want to kill you, so why bother? Why waste my energy? It's better to be calm. The acceptance of death. Momo, listen to what my second uncle said, there must be some misunderstanding between us. I was surprised when I heard the news of your parents' death, but no one can avoid natural and man-made disasters. Mo Mingguo still refused to admit it. Mo Zhongxiang no longer even had the desire to talk to him. He gave him a cold look, turned around and walked out the door. Second uncle, have a good trip. Don't listen to the second uncle, don't leave. Mo Mingguo called Mo Zhongxiang frantically. Mo Zhongxiang didn't even look back and closed the door. How could she let him die like this? She wanted them to receive the punishment they deserve, even if it was difficult. As soon as Mo Zhongxiang came downstairs, someone grabbed her waist, and the man's low voice sounded in her ears, do you want me to dig out his eyes? A blind man cannot be the mayor. Mo Zhongxiang. You don't want to kill him, and you don't want to gouge out his eyes, so what are you doing with him? The man's low-pitched voice was muffled. Mo Zhongxiang said tiredly, send me back, there are still meetings to be held. He made you sad, I want to kill him, Su Yuan said fiercely. Mo Zhongxiang's heart suddenly shrank. She only wet the corners of her eyes. He could see it, I want him to live. I want to send him in personally, so I'll leave him alive. Okay, Su Yuan's agreed. How about you carry me back? Mo Zhongxiang coquettishly faced the man. Good. Su Yuan's bent over, and Mo Zhongxiang lay on his back, put his hands around his neck, and rested his head on his back, as if he had the most sense of security in the world. Su Yuan's, I'm so sleepy. On my back, you can sleep peacefully. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. I am there for everything. Sleep when you feel sleepy. Su Yuan's walked forward steadily, carrying her on his back. Mo Zhongxiang leaned his face on his shoulder, as if he had someone to rely on. Su Yuan's, do you think I am a special person? No, the man answered her without hesitation. But I can obviously kill him now, and I asked you to put him back. The consequence of putting him back is that it is very likely that the tiger will return to the mountain. Mo Zhongxiang knew very well the consequences of putting the person back. The expression on Su Yuan's cold and graceful face did not change, as if it was not a question at all. He answered her calmly, I am with you in everything. I know. Mo Zhongxiang's hand around his neck tightened, and he buried his head on his shoulder with little reliance. As soon as Su Yuan silently carried Mo Zhongxiang out of the villa, a raging fire broke out in the villa, and thick smoke billowed into the sky. Zhang woke up from the hotel in the evening. It was already evening. He touched his sore neck, frowned and opened the door. The boss had come back and was discussing work with Luo Yi and Mo Zhangxiang. Zhang Xiao walked over and glanced at the things they put on the table. They were all a lot of data that she couldn't understand, so she retracted her curiosity. "Are you awake? Are you hungry?" Fu Chenxiao held the person in his arms with one hand and asked. A little bit. Zhang Xiao followed them from Ruchen to Rongcheng. He originally wanted to investigate the Mo family's affairs, but he was knocked unconscious and was lying there until now. It's strange that he wasn't hungry. Fu Chenxiao squeezed the softness around her waist and said in a gentle voice, "I'm waiting for a few minutes. I still have some finishing work to do. I'll take you down for dinner when I'm done." Zhang Xiaoxiao's eyes lingered on Mo Zhangxiang for a moment, but he only waited for a few seconds before looking back, looking at Fu Chenxiao, and said, "Uncle Wu, I can go down and eat by myself first. Don't go too far. I'll go down to find you when I'm done." Fu Chenxiao loosened his hand around her waist and kissed the tip of her ear. Zhang Xiao's face turned slightly red, and he shyly pushed Fu Chenxiao away and kept a certain distance from him. "Fifth uncle, I'm going down first." The girl's voice is clear and sweet. Fu Chenxiao twitched the corners of his lips and looked at the figure who was about to disappear at the door. His eyes were still as cold as usual, but they were filled with soft light. "Fifth master, the cost estimate of the project has been sent to your computer." Luo Yi complained bitterly to his boss, asking them to eat dog food here. "I wonder if there is an older, unmarried young man here? I am still oppressed by my boss all year round and have no time to go on blind dates. It's hard work." Fu Chenxiao moved his index finger slightly, almost looking at the sent document. His cold eyes narrowed slightly. "The price is wrong." Luo Yi's face became serious when he heard that the price was wrong. The price was given by the other side. If the price was wrong, then the consequences would be very serious. After all, this is a national project, and someone has put their brains into it. After he finished reading the document, he turned on the computer and said to Fu Chenxiao, "Fifth master, I'll go find them." "No, let's spread the word that Mr. Fu is not willing to do this project." Fu Chenxiao stood up tall, straightened his clothes, and walked out. "Okay, fifth master." Luo Yi also picked up the computer and prepared to leave. Upon seeing this, Mo Zhangxiang hurriedly followed Luo Yi. "Master, what do you mean by this? We worked overtime for a whole month to complete this project, and now we are not going to do it?" End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. A 180-degree change in attitude. Luo Yi explained to Mo Zhangxiang as he walked, "It's not that we won't do it. Even if this project is a loss, Mr. Wu will still do it. Now someone wants to take part of the original price. Mr. Wu wants them to cough up the money, come out and give migrant workers the best protection." Mo Zhangxiang was a little confused when he heard this. "Master, the quotation given by the government is not low. We can't lose our capital. Not only will we not lose money, we will also make a profit." Luo Yuji patiently explained to her, "The price offered by the government is not low, but our company doesn't make much money. You can go back to the company and take a look at the projects the company has done for the government in the past. They all just managed to maintain capital. Now that someone has lowered the price, it is clear what they mean. They want to take the next part of the money, and Master Wu wants them to give up this idea." Mo Zhangxiang was even more confused now and was full of curiosity. Master has made it known that he doesn't want to take on this project. Then there are a lot of companies who want to take over this project. This will just satisfy those people." Luo Yi smiled and looked at his innocent apprentice. "Momo, do you think anyone would dare to take over a project that the Fu family doesn't take on? The Fu family's authority is not only in Ruchen. Mo Zhangxiang. Yes, he is capable of arrogance. Let's go eat first, and then come with me to get some clothes, Luo Yi said. Okay. Mo Zhangxiang followed Luo Yi's footsteps. Fu Chenxiao found Zhang Xiaoxiao by the window. The little girl looked out the window. The things on the table had not moved much. She didn't know what she was thinking. Zhang Xiaoxiao turned around and made eye contact with the boss. Uncle Fifth, are you done? Fu Chenxiao raised his eyebrows and looked at her. What are you thinking about? Zhang Xiaoxiao's thick eyelashes blinked slightly, her eyes were clear, and she replied, I didn't think about anything. Is the food not to your liking? Fu Chenxiao sat down next to her. Zhang Shi shook his head. Fu Chenxiao picked up the shrimp on the table, peeled off the shell, and fed it to Zhang Xiaoxiao's mouth. Open your mouth. Zhang Xiao opened her mouth obediently and accepted the feeding from the boss. After she was full, the boss slowly said, there is a banquet tonight, you go with me. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at him with eyes. What kind of banquet? It's an ordinary business banquet. I've asked Luo Yi to help you get your dress back, Fu Chenxiao said lightly. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't have any objections. She could just go if the boss asked her to. Anyway, she had nothing to do. Hilton Hotel. Zhang Xiao was wearing a sky blue dress and stood in an inconspicuous corner talking to Mo Zhangxiang, who made me faint. A friend of mine, Mo Zhangxiang replied. You can knock me out once, but you can't knock me out a second time. I have countless opportunities to investigate, and you can't stop me. Zhang Xiao was just stating a fact. Mo Zhangxiang lowered his eyes and looked much calmer than during the day. You can go and check if you want, but please pay attention to safety. Zhang Xiao, she wanted to object to herself all morning, but now her attitude has changed 180 degrees, and she said she was a little confused. When I was young, my sister thought about it carefully. There are some things that I don't want you to know. If I don't care, you will do what I think. You may have the right to know the past, but I also have the right not to tell you the past. Mo Zhangxiang looked at her calmly. Zhangxi. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 266. Chapter 266. Chapter 266. Mrs. Fu. Fifth Master, come here, little one, my sister won't stop you from doing anything from now on as long as you are safe, my sister will be fine. After Mo Zhangxiang said that, he picked up the wine glass and went to Luo Yi's side. Fu Chenxiao smelled slightly of alcohol and wrapped his arms around Zhang Shi. Are you bored? Fortunately, Secretary Mo is with me, Zhang Xiao replied. Follow me to meet someone. Who? The richest man in Chengdu, Mo Ziwiyuan. Fu Chenxiao replied quietly. Zhang Xiaoxi felt uneasy inside, and her dark eyes flickered. It happened that this was deliberately arranged by the boss. Zhang Xiaoxi didn't think too much about it. If she could see Mo Ziwiyuan, she would have the opportunity to investigate the past. Please help Bai Yueguang investigate clearly to prevent himself from being in a dangerous situation. Is he here? Zhang Xiao looked towards the center of the banquet. Fu Chenxiao squinted his eyes slightly, his handsome face not showing off his beauty, and rubbed the top of her hair with one hand, in the lounge upstairs. Then shall we go now? Zhang Xiaoxiao's words showed that he was eager to see Mo Ziwiyuan. Fu Chenxiao nodded, go now. Zhang Xiao was held by the boss around his waist, and he followed his steps as he stepped forward. Many people came to say hello to the boss along the way, but they were all blocked by Luo Yi. When they walked to the lounge, they didn't see Mo Ziwiyuan. Only his assistant kept apologizing, Mr. Fu, I'm really sorry. The president had an emergency at home and went back. Let me tell you. Sorry, I will treat you to a private dinner in a few days as an apology. Fujinexi's stern face was expressionless, making it impossible to see any emotion. Then let's wait until Mr. Mo takes care of the family affairs, and then we can discuss our cooperation. Mr. Fu, please don't be angry. Mo is always looking forward to cooperating with you. The assistant was afraid that he would be angry and did not do what the boss told him well, so he would not have to do his job. Fu sir, to tell you the truth, Mr. Mo was kidnapped today. He is seriously injured and is lying in the hospital. Mr. Mo went to see his brother. Kidnapped? Fujinexiu asked, raising his eyebrows. Yes, this news has been blocked. Who knew that the man who was beaten to death is still in a seaside village? Now the public is trying their best to arrest the gangsters. The assistant lowered his voice and said, for fear of being overheard. At which hospital? Before Fujinexiu could speak, Zhang Xiaoxiao asked. Mrs. Fu, you can't go even if you know it. This kind of thing will not be spread to outsiders, and no one else will be allowed to visit. The assistant looked at Zhang Xiao and replied. Mrs. Fu, when did she become Mrs. Fu? Hasn't this person even investigated the big boss? Doesn't she know who she is? Zhang Xiaoxi opened his mouth to explain himself, I'm not Fu. Since Mr. Mo has family matters, my wife and I will leave first. Fujinexiu put his arm around Zhang Xiaoxi's waist and interrupted her. Mr. Fu, thank you for your understanding. You and Mrs. Fu are a perfect match, not to mention how good his other assistants are. He still has the ability to flatter others. Just by looking at Fujinexiu's eyes, you can tell how talented he is. If you love the woman around you, there is nothing wrong with flattering you like this. Well, my wife and I are indeed a good match. Fujinexiu raised the corners of his mouth, feeling very happy. When the assistant saw this, he knew that he was right to flatter her. Mr. Fu, with my wife's looks, only someone like you, Mr. Fu, is worthy of her. The babies you will give birth to in the future will definitely have incredible looks. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 267. Chapter 267. Chapter 267. Well, it's a bit sweet. The tips of Zhang Xiaoxi's ears were red as he listened. He was looking at Fujinexiu and his assistant. One was like an ancient emperor, and the other was like an ancient eunuch. The eunuch's words pleased the king, and the king's expression was full of smiles. Say a word of appreciation. What's your name? Fujinexiu asked. The assistant had a smile on his face and replied like a bitch, my surname is Zhu Qingui. If you want to come to Fu's in the future, go directly to my secretary Luo Yi. Zhu Qingui was stunned for a moment, then his eyes narrowed as he smiled, thank you, Mr. Fu, for your kindness. I will definitely go to Secretary Luo if necessary. Zhang Xiao looked on blankly. She now understood why it was so important to have a clever mouth. Fujinexiu hugged Zhang Xiao and turned to leave. Zhu Qingui also said to their backs, Mr. Fu, Mrs. Fu, walk slowly. Zhang Shi. Fifth uncle, why did you ask me to explain our relationship just now? Zhang Xiao admired the boss's courage to actually let outsiders call her Mrs. Fu. Anyone who is interested will know their relationship if they check it out, so the consequences, she didn't dare to imagine. Fujinexiu raised his eyebrows and stared at her coldly with his deep eyes, why do you need to explain? Zhang Xiaoxiu's eyes widened, his cheeks puffed up, and he was emotional, of course you have to explain it. In the eyes of outsiders, we are uncle-nephew relationship. Although we are not in Ruchin, we can't be so careless. Fujinexiu covered Zhang Xiaoxi's little hand with his big palm, squeezed it, and brought it close to her ear. He said in a sultry voice, you mean that I can be called to you even if I'm not in Ruchin? Fu. Husband. People. Fujinexio said the last three words one by one, and each word stirred up Zhang Shishi's heart. His face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, his burning cheeks became hot, and he stuttered when he spoke, "No. It's, can't, can, scream like that. But I want to call you this way, sooner or later you will be Mrs. Fu. Your name has been written into my household registration book 10 years ago." Fujinexio's mouth curved upwards, his smile undisguised. Zhang Xiaoxio's heart was beating wildly, and his thick black eyelashes were trembling. He was too shy to look at the boss. "Uncle Wu, I'm talking about what happened just now." "Well, I was telling you what happened just now, Mrs. Fu," Fujinexio said quietly in Zhang Xiaoxio's ear. "No. No. You can't call it that," Zhang Xiao said to him with a blush. Fujinexio sneered lowly, "Well, I won't call you that now, but I'll call you that from now on, Mrs. Fu. Zhang Xiaoxi." Oh my god, in her mind, the boss has the kind of emotion that doesn't show on his face. He has the same expression all year round. When did he become a gangster, glib? "Uncle Wu, if you say this, I will ignore you." Zhang Xiaoxiao pushed the boss. Fujinexio took the opportunity to hold her in his arms, resting his chin on the top of her hair, the smile on his lips deepened, and his cold eyes were full of tenderness. "Okay, don't say anything, my girl is shy." "Zhang Shi. Fifth Master, Miss Wen is looking for you." Luo Yi appeared at the stairs with his mobile phone. When he saw the two people hugging each other at the stairs, he wanted to turn into air and disappear. How could he be so bad and disturb Fifth Master? It's a good thing, just wait to be hacked alive. When Zhang Xiaoxiao heard the words "when you were," his face darkened on the spot and he pushed the boss away fiercely. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 268. Chapter 268. Chapter 268. Are you not going to take care of it anymore? Fifth uncle, you still have something to do. I'm going to see Secretary Mo to play, so I won't disturb you anymore. Zhang Xiaohe left with a stern face, without even looking back. Fujinexio watched Zhang Xiaoxio's leaving figure disappear, and turned his gaze to Luo Yi. His cold eyes, as deep as a deep pool, stared at him with a sharp look. Luo Yi swallowed nervously, his back already soaked with sweat, and a pale smile appeared on his face. "Fifth Master, are you still answering the phone?" Fujinexio squinted his eyes, walked over with a chill, picked up the phone and answered, "Hello. Senior, help me quickly." When Yuru's voice was urgent. Fujinexio frowned deeply and stepped out. "What happened?" "My brother was ambushed today and was injured. The news has been blocked. However, his political opponents have received the news and are already restless in secret. Senior, please help me." When Yuru's voice was filled with helplessness, but he had no choice but to force yourself to calm down. "Where is your man?" Fujinexio glanced at Luo Yi as he asked. Luo Yi immediately took out another mobile phone and handed it to Fujinexio. When Yuru bit his lip with an aggrieved look on his face, he went back. "My elder brother is here to find you now. He will help you stabilize. First I will rush back to Ruchin immediately." "Have you contacted Guanyang?" Fujinexio quickened his pace. "Contacted the senior official. His father is helping my brother perform surgery." When Yuru was really helpless at the moment. His brother was his only relative, but he was in a high place and surrounded by crises. Where she could help him, very little. "I'll be there in 2 hours, don't be afraid." Fujinexio was already sitting in the passenger seat. Fujinexio's words gave Wenyuru reassurance. "Senior, thank you." "Well, I'll see you in 2 hours." Fujinexio hung up the phone, took out a number from the phone book, and dialed it. "Hello. If something happens to your woman, are you going to stop taking care of it?" Fujinexio's voice was cold. The loud sound of something being kicked into pieces reached Fujinexio's ears. followed by the man's low curse, "Sooner or later I will be off by her." Fu Chenxiao squinted his eyes and spoke indifferently to the person on the phone, "Where are you now?" Southern Hemisphere. The man's gritted teeth could tell how much anger he was suppressing. Fu Chenxiao sneered, "I came back and handed over the public rations and left." "Damn, I haven't even seen her, old Fu, why are you talking so viciously now?" Fu Chenxiao half squinted his cold eyes, lightly touched the screen with his finger, and hung up the phone. "Let Mo Zhongxiang send his childhood back," Fu Chenxiao said. Luo Yi drove the car with all his concentration. "Fifth Master, I have contacted Mo Zhongxiang just now. She said she wanted to spend a few days in Chengdu, and I asked her to accompany her." "Well, let the people in the dark take care of their safety." Fu Chenxiao closed his eyes and leaned on the car seat. Zhang Xiaoxiao had already changed into his usual clothes and walked on the streets of Rongcheng when he came out of the banquet. He didn't ask Mo Zhongxiang about his past, and the two of them just strolled on the streets like that. "Fifth uncle, did you tell me what happened?" Zhang Xiao asked casually with his hands in his pockets. "No, but it's very serious according to the master's tone," Mo Zhongxiang answered her. Zhang Xiaoxiao walked in front with his head lowered, his thick eyelashes blocking the emotion in his eyes, and he responded lightly, "Oh." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 269. Chapter 269. Chapter 269. Whoever is tempted first will lose. "Sir, do you want to go for a supper with me?" Mo Zhongxiang suggested when he saw that she was not in a high mood. Zhang Xiaoxiao lowered her eyes and stared at her toes. She walked extremely slowly and was silent in her thoughts. When you recalled the boss with just one phone call. The boss really treated her differently. A woman can make a man run back desperately with just one phone call. That is true love. If that's the case, then who is she? Mrs. Fu seemed to be like a repeater a second ago, replaying it repeatedly in her mind. Now that she thinks about it, she feels that these three words are really ironic. This is how a man calls out, "Baby, my sweetheart, you are my sweetheart," and then turns around and falls into the arms of another woman. As expected, whoever is tempted by feelings first will lose. Zhang Shi was thinking seriously when suddenly the tip of his nose felt cold. He subconsciously looked up and saw fluffy snowflakes floating in the sky. He stretched out his hand to catch a snowflake and watched it melt between him and disappear. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Thinking of a classic scene in the TV series, "The first snow is the most worthy day to confess." It's a pity that such a beautiful scene is not suitable for her. "When I'm young, there are roasted sweet potatoes there, do you want to eat them?" Mo Zhongxiang pointed to a sweet potato stall with the tip of his nose red from the cold. Zhang was not very hungry when he was young. After eating at the hotel, he also ate a lot of snacks at the banquet. Seeing that Mo Zhongxiang was in such a high mood, he did not refuse, "Let's go buy two." Okay. Mo Zhongxiang took Zhang Xiaoxi's hand and started jogging to the sweet potato stall. "Uncle, here are two sweet potatoes." Mo Zhongxiang greeted the sweet potato seller with a crooked eyebrow. The uncle is an acquaintance, and business people always smile. "Little girl, do you like softer or harder food?" "Soft." "Hard." Two people have the opportunity to speak at the same time. "Uncle, give her the softer one and give me the harder one." Mo Zhongxiang spoke. Okay. The uncle skillfully picked out two sweet potatoes for them, "Take one for each of you." Mo Zhongxiang said to his uncle, "Thank you." After that, he took Zhang Xiaoxiao and sat on a chair not far away, eating sweet potatoes. Zhang Xiaoxiao peeled off the shell of the sweet potato and took a shallow bite. The sweetness of the sweet potato instantly filled her entire mouth. The sweetness conquered her taste buds, not to mention it was really delicious. When I was young, are the sweet potatoes here delicious? When Mo Zhangxiang asked her, half of the sweet potatoes had already been eaten. It's delicious, Zhang Shi commented and answered truthfully. Mo Zhangxiang's eyebrows were curved, with a happy expression on his face. When you were a child, did you know? When you were a child, your sister often took you out to eat roasted sweet potatoes. At that time, when you ate the sweet potatoes, you seemed to have happiness to the whole world. Zhang Xiaoxiao listened quietly to her talking to herself without saying anything. Mo Zhangxiang didn't care whether she listened or not. He muttered to himself, when I was young, you may have forgotten the taste of sweet potatoes, but your appearance at that time has been imprinted in my mind. If our Mo family is all living well, maybe it will be our family members who come to eat sweet potatoes today. However, there is no medicine for returning to the past in this world. Jiang's eyes have been fixed on the warm light since he was young. Mo Jiang's eyes dimmed. I know, that's why my little sister wants you to live. Jiangxi. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 270. Chapter 270 Chapter 270 Wenyuoru's helplessness. Didn't you say you would protect me? Zhang Xiao's thick and curled eyelashes twitched. When Mo Zhangxiang heard her words, his eyes lit up instantly, and his voice was a little excited. When you were young, you believed in my sister. Ms. Zhang took a bite of the sweet potato. She did not look at Mo Zhangxiang, but still looked at the street lamp. Tell me about how we will get along in 2 hours. Okay, Mo Zhangxiang agreed emotionally. You could rely on me when you were a child. Mo Zhangxiang opened up the conversation and told Zhang Xiaoxiao about her childhood, but there was not even a single word in the middle except something about her childhood. Ruchen. When Fu Chenxi rushed to the Wen family, Wen Yuuru was sitting in the hall with a pale face, facing a middle-aged man alone. Behind the middle-aged man were a dozen men with weapons. Uncle Zhong, my brother is not at home. You can't wait for him here. If you want to find him, you should go to the presidential palace to find him. Wen Yuuru forced himself to cheer up and not be afraid. Zhong Kui's strong aura suppressed Wen Yuuru. Yuuru, Uncle Zhong received news that your brother was injured. On behalf of everyone, come and have a look. After all, a country cannot live without a king for a day. Uncle Zhong, I am here with everyone's advice. Wen Yuuru's temples were beating with anger. He turned black on the spot and said in a serious tone, Uncle Zhong, do you know how serious the consequences of spreading rumors about the president are? Everyone is well aware of this. But you have to say it for yourself now. Be responsible if you say so. Facing Wen Yuuru's uncontrollable anger, Zhong Kui looked like an old fox, the one wearing human skin. Yuuru, Uncle Zhong, of course I know it's a rumor, but I can't resist those people, so I came here ask for proof. Wen Yuuru sneered, Uncle Zhong, if you want to find my brother, you should go to the presidential palace and contact my brother's secretary. What's the point of coming to my house in the middle of the night? Yuuru, don't be angry. I can't contact your brother's secretary. I'm so shameless that I came to your house so late. Why don't you help Uncle Zhong contact your brother? If I can contact you, Uncle Zhong, I'll call you right away. Let's go. Zhong Kui's words were irresistible. Wen Yuuru sat there with an ugly face, took out his mobile phone, and called Wen Runian. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. Wen Yuuru put his phone on the table. Uncle Zhong, as you can see, I can't contact my brother either. Zhong Kui stared at Wen Yuuru with a smile, looking like a kind elder. Yuuru, you can't even contact your brother. This Uncle Zhong can't leave. Some things are not groundless. If you want to, why don't you ask Uncle Zhong to go in and find out if your brother is here, so everyone can let go. Wen Yuuru's face sank and his facial lines tightened. Uncle Zhong, Are you trying to search my house? You, don't say it so harshly. Uncle Jean doesn't have that much right to search your home. I just found a young man to help you move your things. As Jean Quay spoke, the men with weapons began to take action. When Yoru stood up and stared at the men, biting and saying, "If any of you dare to touch anything in my house today, I will definitely make you pay the price." When Yoru's words didn't work at all. The men didn't stop moving, they were still doing what they were supposed to do, treating her like air. When Yoru was about to go crazy. He was extremely helpless. His brother was still operating in the dark room. If these people found out, he would definitely die. In times of despair, hear the voice of hope. End of this chapter.